Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. This is IE Vegas, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again. You guys know what we do. We talk all things Vegas sports, and there's a lot to talk about tonight, a lot to unpack. We're going to dive right into the Golden Knights, who are surging right now in this first round of the NHL playoffs. Is there anything better than NHL playoffs this time of year? Other than the Lakers winning? Is there anything better? I'm hard-pressed, man. I'm hard-pressed to find anything else to really cheer on at this point in time other than the NFL draft's on the way. Major League Baseball is taking a step closer to Vegas. Got a lot to cover, but for the most part, you know we're going to end with our show because it is the NFL draft. It is probably one of the biggest events in sports now, and I think it's hard to acknowledge anything different. The NFL draft. I went over to the first round, the entirety of the first round last week. I'm going to submit my final first round mock draft to the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Pat, on the IE Sports Radio band channel that we have. And so that's ready to go for Thursday night. But we're going to talk about Raiders and their needs. They got needs. They need to fill them. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight here on the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You can get at us on our Twitter handles. At Cale_Henderson is my personal. At Sin City _IESR is the Sin City Sports Show Twitter handle. Get at us anytime, guys. Get at us anytime with any questions, any content. Badger us. We love it. We love it. I'm always tweeting, man. If you tweet me, I'm going to tweet you back. It is very likely I'm going to reply unless there's something just so repugnant or repulsive. I'll still probably reply and not be very nice about it because it is what it is, man. Sports just brings an animal out of everybody. When we get back, we're going to dive right into the Vegas Golden Knights. Ladies and sinners, this is IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson, and again, we're back at it again every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on IE Sports Radio, the Spreaker. You guys know it. We do it up. We talk all things Vegas. Want to say hello to Taryn Rodriguez as always. He's the MVP here at IE Sports Radio. Tuning into our show, making sure that I am coming on. I want you guys to know every Tuesday morning to maybe mid-afternoon, he texts me or messages me saying, hey, man, are you coming on tonight? Or it's at the point where he's like, I assume you'll be on tonight, Cale. And he's right. Unless something comes up where it's dire and I can't be here, like a couple weeks ago, personal stuff going on. Yeah, Taryn's always on the ball, man. You're the MVP, dude. You're the biggest supporter. I love it. Taryn chimes in. Good evening, Cale. Have an awesome show. Got nothing going on tonight, so I can listen to you do your thing. Taryn Rodriguez is the host of Set Point and SoCal Sports here at IE Sports Radio. He is always on the go. He's always getting great interviews with volleyball coaches, featuring volleyball basically nationwide at all times. And I mean, the man go. Probably while working a full-time job on the side as well. So he's a beast, man. And on top of that, he's always helping Larry with anything he needs. He's an admin here at IE Sports Radio, and he kicks ass, man. You do a great job, dude. He said, so do you think the Raiders go in? Who do you think the Raiders go with in the draft? Quarterback isn't a bad idea, but that defense needs to be shored up. Yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight. There's probably going to be two scenarios in my head. I actually put money down, Taryn, because I think it was like plus 500 a couple weeks ago that all four top quarterbacks would be picked in the top four this year. I put $100 down, and I'm pretty confident that all four of the top quarterbacks will be the top four guys taken. I have no problem thinking that. I think it's a safe bet. There's a possibility I win $500 by the end of Thursday night or halfway through the round. I don't know. It's just, I think they're the top four picks. I really do. I'm not trying to infringe on what's going on with Larry because I know talking about the NFL as a whole is his job over there at 3 and Out. But I think it's important, man. Like the Raiders are kind of on this topic. Like, are they going to get one of the top four quarterbacks? I can't guarantee that right at this point. If the Raiders want a top four quarterback, if they're sold on somebody, they're likely going to have to trade up to three with the Carolina or the Cardinals, and I don't see it. I just don't. They have the picks. They have 12 picks. If they traded away three to get up there and they have 9 picks left in this year's draft, I'd be perfectly fine with that because I think from what we saw last year in the draft, Dave Ziegler can work his magic with those draft picks. Dave Ziegler's not the problem in my mind. I know his feet are on the fire, and Mark Davis kind of called him out for being young and not he didn't say dumb, but young and inexperienced and all that jazz. Dave Ziegler's doing a good job. I think he's putting together a roster that you can win with. I just don't trust Josh McDaniels. But back to the top four quarterbacks, I think the top four quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks. And you have, guys, guys in our chat, our band chat, and I think they're extremely smart sports guys. I mean, some of them. Just kidding to anybody who's listening. Matthew Owens, I think he's on it, man. I think Matt. The more I do research on this, Matt's not crazy. I mean, I don't think he's crazy to begin with. Matt said that Will Levis could be the number 1 pick. Okay. Listen, Will Levis had amazing tape in 2021. He had fantastic tape in 2021. His PFF rating was in the 90s. Like he was a dark blue, man, which is the best you can be in PFF, right? But that team lost a lot of players in 2021 to the draft. Their starting tackle, their best receiver, or probably their most dynamic player. He didn't have a lot to go with this year, man. The defense was significantly worse than the year before. I don't think Will Levis had a lot of help. I think he's tough. I think he's got a cannon. I think he's built like a brick shithouse. And I'm sorry to say that on radio like that, but dude's jacked for a quarterback, man. He's all of 6'4", 222 if 6'4" is accurate. And I think PFF is on the ball with that. I don't think they lie about that. He's like 6'4", 222, 230. Like that's great size for a quarterback in today's. And I think he's mobile. But the things he can do on the run are very impressive. Like he's got a strong arm, man. He's got a live arm. Do I think he's extremely accurate downfield? No. I think he throws the ball. While it's not like Phillip Rivers in the sense where Phillip Rivers used to shot put, I think he's got a cannon like Phillip Rivers, and I think his ball trajectory is very similar. And I say that in the most respectful way, by the way. Phillip Rivers was a baller. The problem was he was a Charger. And that's no shot to you either, Taryn. Like, I think Phillip Rivers was a guy that could have very easily won a Super Bowl. I just don't think the Chargers had their crap together all the time. And I feel like he went through like 4 or 5 coaches, too, in his tenure, which is pretty ridiculous. A bunch of offensive coordinators. And it didn't help that he was in, a division which was prominently dominated by the Chiefs and the Broncos, like in Phillip's prime. You know what I'm saying? It was just really tough. I think my comp for Will Levis, and people may think I'm crazy, is Phillip Rivers. I think he's a more athletic version of Phillip Rivers, and when you watch him throw, you can totally see it. He's more mobile, and again, he's more athletic. I just think he's more athletic in general. But yeah, I would totally say he's got a Phillip Rivers comp, and I if he's picked number 1, I've seen crazier crap happen, man. Baker Mayfield was selected number 1. Baker freaking Mayfield was selected number 1 overall. The guy barely hit 6 foot. He wasn't very fast. He looked fast in college. He looked like he could evade dudes in college, but it was obvious he couldn't do it in the pros. It is what it is, man. Baker had a strong arm, and he had a mentality that I think at the time John Dorsey, who was the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, loved. But what I'm trying to say is if Will Levis is projected at number 1, I've seen crazier things. I think Will Levis is a better quarterback right now than what Baker Mayfield was coming out of college. I think Will Levis had a lot less around him. If you put Will Levis on that Oklahoma team that Baker Mayfield was on, they probably win the Natty. Or they're really close to Alabama and winning the Natty. I don't have an issue saying that. I really don't. Baker was surrounded with excellent talent in Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley and the way they ran the ball. The big old offensive linemen, those slot receivers that were fast, man. I think Baker was made to look much better than what he was, and he went number 1 overall. So is it really that crazy that Will Levis could go number 1 overall? I think Matthew Owens, I don't know. My money says he won't be number 1 overall, but I wouldn't be surprised. This is the NFL. Okay? Ryan Leaf was selected over Peyton Manning. And look how that turned out. Crap happens all the time, dude. So, it is what it is. Zach Wilson was selected like 2nd overall in the draft. This happens every year, man. The ESPN, everybody, they're marketing this draft so effing well that these guys get inflated, man. But I'll say this. I do think Will Levis is the top 4. He's a top 4 quarterback in this draft. And you could argue he's 3 or 4 with Richardson. But the top 2 to me are still Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. If it were me picking at 1, I stand pat in saying that CJ Stroud's the dude. But I'm not there. And if Carolina's really that team and they've already let Will Levis know that he's likely going to be picked at number 1, cool, man. I think Frank Reich is going to get a baller. I think Frank Reich's going to get a guy with a live arm. Doesn't mean I think he's better than CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. Bryce Young is the most pro-ready quarterback right now. CJ Stroud has all the tools. The highest ceiling of the 4 quarterbacks that could be taken is Richardson. And that's not even close, man. Like, Anthony Richardson is a beast. He's 6'4", 244. He runs a 4.4 speed. He's probably got the strongest arm of the group of guys. He could very well have the strongest arm of the group of guys. There's just so much, and he's only 20, man. He hasn't turned 21 yet. The guy's got a ton of potential. So I think, in reality, I think Bryce Young goes 1, CJ Stroud goes 2. If it were me, CJ Stroud would go 1, Bryce Young would be 2, Will Levis would be 3, and Anthony Richardson would be 4. And I could totally see the draft end up that way. I think Anthony Richardson's best chance is ending up a Colt. And I don't think people realize what I mean when I say this. 3 years ago, Jalen Hurts was struggling in an Eagles uniform. It was his rookie year. He was learning. That's what happens. You struggle. But the now head coach of the Indianapolis Colts had Jalen Hurts for 3 seasons. He used Jalen Hurts' skills, strong arm, running ability, his leadership, as ways to accentuate the best in his Eagles offense. It helps that they had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, don't get me wrong. Excellent running game, one of the better offensive lines in all of the league. But let's be honest. Are you going to sit here and tell me that Jalen Hurts was better coming out of the draft than Anthony Richardson is now? To me, they're like the same player. Anthony Richardson's just a bigger, more athletic version. He might not be as strong, because I don't know if anybody. Jalen Hurts might be the strongest quarterback in the league, period. He's a freak of nature. But Richardson has more upside. And it's hard-pressed for anybody to convince me otherwise. I think Anthony Richardson's best chance is being a Colt. Because he's going to end up with that quarterback coach, that offensive coordinator, that head coach, and that guy's going to know what to do with his skills, because those skills translate very well to what Jalen did. And all they got to do is build a nice line, get a few receivers, and buff up that defense, and they could easily dominate that crappy AFC South division for years with the skill set Anthony has. But I think it's very important that Anthony sits year 1. I think it's imperative that Anthony Richardson sits year 1. And I would almost say the same thing for Will Levis. Whoever trades up for Will is likely, if he doesn't get picked 1 like Matthew Owens is saying, whoever trades up for Will, I think they need to sit him in year 2. Use a bridge quarterback, no one cares. If it's the Raiders, great. Let Jimmy Garoppolo be the starting quarterback for 1 to 2 years if you need be. And let Will learn. And then unleash him in year 3, year 4, year 2, year 3. Right? Give him time to learn the offense, get live reps in practice against NFL speed for an entire season, an entire first offseason, an entire second offseason before making these guys play. I think that's massively important. Look what happened, and step no further than what you saw from Patrick Mahomes. The guy had the ability to sit for an entire year behind a consummate pro in Alex Smith, and it's been all she wrote since. Yes, he's one of the most talented guys we've ever seen. Yes, the Chiefs were built as a championship roster. The teams that Anthony Richardson, Will Levis get drafted to could easily do the same damn thing. And honestly, I would argue whoever gets drafted to the Panthers is actually in a really good situation because they have an excellent offensive line, they have multiple running backs, they have some speed at receiver. They're going to be fine. They'll be able to load that team up, a very talented young defense. They'll be competitive in the NFC South once Carr's gone from the Saints. I 100% believe that. I digress. We're going to jump right into the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas Golden Knights are up 3-1 in the Pacific Division. Taryn, I love you, by the way. You had me going on a tangent there. I haven't even talked about Vegas sports much, other than the Raiders and their needs and what I think should happen if they drafted one of those two guys. Golden Knights lost the first game 5-1. Since then, it's been all she wrote. Like, Golden Knights have been on a tear, and they're up 3-1. They won 4-2 in Winnipeg. The nice thing about what the Golden Knights did is they lost their first game at home, got them playoff jitters out of the way, and they've won 3 straight. 2 of those being in Winnipeg. The next game is at home in Vegas, Game 5. That'll be Thursday evening at 9 p.m. I'll keep you guys updated as much as possible because I will be very much in tune with the NFL Draft. I'm not going to lie to you. I love that event. I'm going to be smoking pork belly burnt ends. I'm going to be grilling up some wings on the flat top. We're going to have some chips and some Chipotle Ranch dip. I mean, there's a possibility some of those pork belly burnt ends end up in a quesadilla of some sort. I don't know. All I can tell you is we're going to have some fat boy food at my place. And I've been on a pretty decent diet and losing weight like crazy and running again. I've earned it. My mouth's watering just thinking about it. Okay? Pork belly burnt ends. And here's a little nugget for you guys. Okay? Here's a little Vegas story nugget for you guys. Those pork belly burnt ends will be in the smoker on a rack, cubed, highly seasoned, because they've been marinating in the fridge yesterday and tonight. They will be ready to go on the smoker on Thursday. I'm going to have them on a grate, smoking for 3 hours at 275. I'm going to pull them off. I'm going to throw them in a pan in one of those catering dishes, tin catering dishes, with a stick of knobs or a whole stick of knob butter, brown sugar, some honey. Cover it up with tin foil and throw it right back in that smoker for about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how, steamy you want to get them. Then I'm going to pull them off and let them rest for an hour or so. Then I'm going to take those babies, throw them in a separate pan, glaze them with barbecue sauce, and finish them on the Weber. It's going to happen. And I'm excited about it. They're going to be absolutely incredible. There's a food nugget for you. I love smoking food. I love cooking food. You guys will find this out real quick. Mates, we're going to have some wings. It's going to be amazing. And those wings are going to marinate overnight, maybe 2 nights, in some salt, pepper, garlic powder, paprika. There's probably going to be some ranch seasoning in there with some buffalo sauce. And they're going to soak in all of that flavor for 2 nights before I throw them babies on the flat top come Thursday evening. Oh, there will be a nice char. And then while they're finishing up, I'll just throw a little bit of butter sauce on them. Garlic butter sauce. You guys know how it is, man. I hope everybody's mouth-watering right now. You too, Taryn. You better not be vegan or vegetarian on me, man. I hope you love this. I know Larry, when he listens to this, he's going to love this. That guy's probably going to be mouth-watering, and he's probably going to love the idea of it because he's a California guy, and I've seen the dude. He's thick. That's a thick man. He's a big, muscular man. He loves his food. I know he does. Larry B chimes in. He says, pass rusher. Man, did you just miss my food talk? I know this is a sports radio show, but I just shared what I'm making for the first round of the draft. I guess I'll say it one more time because you just joined the chat. Pork belly burnt ends, flat top seared wings. It's going down, dude. And then there's going to be some Chipotle Ranch dip made for some Doritos and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, there might be some quesadillas as well, buddy. But just so you know, Larry B, because I know you love food, man. You're a big man. You're a big, muscular man. You love food. Yes, Raiders need a pass rusher somewhere in this draft, right? I'm still disappointed that they haven't used the third-round kid out of Buffalo from a couple years ago, but maybe this staff just doesn't think that guy has it. It's kind of surprising because Chandler Jones was absolute garbage for a whole season. Will Anderson, if he's available. It could be possible at 7, man. I don't know. Jalen Carter could be available as well with the way that this has turned out. Like I said, I think the top 4 quarterbacks go the first 4 picks. Vegas is up to a 3-1 lead. They continue play Thursday evening, the 27th at 9 p.m., where they take on the Jets. They win. And they're resting. They're resting for about a week and a half before they play who's going to be the eventual winner. But I don't know. I would like to see the Golden Knights finish this out tomorrow or Thursday night. I think that'd be amazing for them. By the way, shout out to Seattle Kraken. Dude, I watched that overtime goal last night, and that place was popping. Like, they have the energy, dude. Seattle and Vegas, I love that these two expansion teams are absolutely kicking ass at the very beginning of their structure. We're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to dive right into Major League Baseball in Vegas, what the status is as of right now, what we're waiting on. Rob Manfred seems excited, and there's a lot of folks that are pretty remorseful towards Oakland because Oakland will now be losing its third team in a matter of 4 or 5 years. And then we're going to dive right into the Raiders' needs in the first round of the NFL draft, what I think the Raiders need to be going at. But we're definitely going to go over that mock draft I submitted today, which I think would be an amazing draft if it ended up that way here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I A in the FBS. Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back to the second half of the show, folks. Here is the IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We talk all things Vegas sports. We've touched on the Vegas Golden Knights, given our 2 cents on draft night food. I've already given you guys the idea. Pork belly burnt ends are fire. It's basically just candied bacon. Okay, uncured candied bacon, but it's going to be fire, okay? With some wings, some quesadillas probably, some Doritos. You know, I'm going to be a fat kid on Thursday because I've been dieting and kicking my butt to get back down, to get some poundage down, and I deserve it. I deserve it, you know? And it's draft night. It's draft night. Who shouldn't be able to eat whatever they want on draft night, right? Who should be able to do that? I'm excited. I'm going to pig out. I'm going to be stuffed, and I don't feel bad about it at all. And no, neither should you. I'm going to need that fuel in me anyway so I can fall asleep when the Raiders pick, because you know how that goes. When the Raiders pick, Clelin Ferrell is selected at 4. I don't know. That was a bad pun. It is what it is. That was a bit of a stab, but the Raiders deserve it. When the Raiders pick, Damon Arnett is selected at like 19 or something. I don't know. A third round corner is selected at 19. That's what happens when the Raiders pick players. Alex Leatherwood. Oh, God. Alex Leatherwood, man. Oof. Rough. No way did that happen. Christian Darrisaw went to Minnesota at like 26, 27, who was a far better tackle than Alex Leatherwood, was selected at 17 for the Raiders. Unbelievable. Raiders in a nutshell, man. We're going to touch base on that here shortly. In other news, expansion news, for that matter. And I'm just going to go ahead and cite this because I think it's always important to cite. Jeff Passan from ESPN wrote an article talking about the A's. Basically, the questions were asked. So are the A's officially moving to Vegas? It is not a done deal. To summarize, there are 500 million reasons why the A's have not, the deal's not done. The A's need $500 million of public money. And they're citing the Raiders as an example because the Raiders were provided $750 million in tax-free money from Las Vegas and the municipalities around Las Vegas to help build Allegiant Stadium. The A's are not on the level of the Raiders. They weren't on the level of the Raiders back in Oakland. They're just not that marketable of a franchise. Do I think Vegas caves because they can afford it and they're probably one of the richest towns in all of the United States with the business they bring in, the 47 million tourists that come to Vegas every single year or visit Vegas every single year? Yeah. I think they end up caving, but if I were Vegas, I would tell the A's, you need us more than we need you, and we'll meet you halfway there. But you got to come up with the other $250 million. Granted, the A's have already pledged $1 billion of their own money to build the ballpark, which is estimated to cost $1.5 billion, and I'm guessing that's when construction figured in. It's going to have the idea or the design is going to have a roof that retracts a quarter of the way. Kind of like Arizona's ballpark. If you guys have ever been to the Arizona Diamondbacks ballpark, they have a retractable roof there in the desert. I think that's perfect. I hope it's not a turf field, but it probably will be. And that sucks, especially if you have to dive or slide on that. But and the baseball bounce is completely different on there. But I think that's awesome, and it helps attract more of the crowd. The idea, and Rob Manfred's 100% correct. The A's are better off in Las Vegas. He feels terrible for the Oakland fans. I mean, he sent out a quote recently. It was actually just a day ago. Rob Manfred apologized to Oakland A's fans, but said they will be better off in Las Vegas. And a lot of it has to do with the city of Oakland. And here's the reality. The Oakland A's have been a mainstay in Oakland since 1968 when they moved from Kansas City. Okay? Now they're looking to relocate to Vegas. It's not a done deal. They've purchased 49 acres right off the strip, down the same road on the same side of the road as the Raiders Allegiant Stadium. So I'm sure they're very serious, and I'm sure they feel comfortable saying that Vegas is going to help out with the relocation. Major League Baseball is waiving relocation fees because things have gotten that bad in Oakland. And this is not a shock. And I'm going to say this, guys, before we move on to the Raiders. Mark Davis kind of chimed in and just completely obliterated the A's management. He says he just doesn't like them. It's no hard feelings, but he just doesn't like them. He attempted to, I think overall, Mark Davis wanted to stay in Oakland. He was working out a plan for the Raiders to build a brand new stadium in the same area, the same property as where the Oakland Raiders used to play in the Black Hole there at Oak Coliseum. He loved that piece of land. He and an entire team of design experts showed up with a plan showing all the mall, a lot like what LA did, right? It obviously wouldn't be that grandiose because that's LA, but Oakland had a plan to build malls, hotels, housing, apartments, everything near that stadium to make it an area that was going to buzz with business, which would have been better for Oakland overall. Oakland turned it down. And the A's didn't help because they caved instead of helping with this entire process. They caved and signed a 10-year lease, squatted on a 10-year lease, preventing the Raiders from finding negotiated ways to make it happen in Oakland. So Mark Davis finally got fed up with it and found out, he could make more money. He could turn his $970 million franchise and into a $4-point-something billion franchise in 3 years if he moves to Vegas. So Mark Davis has some hard feelings. I don't think he's going to be completely motivated to help the A's relocate here, and nor should he. The A's didn't help the Raiders. Why should the Raiders help the A's? We'll see. We'll see what happens, because I don't think Mark Davis is that kind of guy. I don't think he's super petty like that, unless it's towards Roger Goodell in the NFL. But yeah, there's 500 million reasons as to why the A's are not officially moving to Vegas yet, and that's fine. They have some things to iron out. What's important is that Rob Manfred and all of baseball is behind it. The relocation fees through Major League Baseball has been waived, and you have a A's organization which wasn't really willing to fork out money before, is ready to fork out money now to build a ballpark. Imagine if the A's would have been willing to offer up $1 billion, as well as the Raiders, when they were trying to come up with an agreement to build, because the Raiders could have very easily built a $60,000 stadium in Oakland with turf or better grass, for that matter, because it's Oakland, they can grow grass out there very easily, and then literally a bridge leading to a ballpark. If those two could have somehow found a way to come up with $2 billion and pledge it, you're telling me they couldn't have found a way to do that? The A's barely fill 5,000 people in stadium. You don't think they couldn't have done like a 25,000 seat ballpark for $1 billion in Oakland? Imagine if they would have done that then. But you know what? The important thing is Vegas is probably going to prosper from two major teams. So not only do they have NHL, which is booming. The Golden Knights are kicking ass, and they've been kicking ass ever since their inception in Vegas. The Raiders, hopefully they come around, but it is the Raiders, and there's Josh McDaniels, so I have little hope. And now you possibly have the A's. It makes you wonder, will the NBA be next? I don't know. It makes sense, man. Again, 47 million tourists. The problem with Vegas right now, and I think the Raiders are kind of proving it, the Golden Knights they're not having those issues, but the Raiders are. It's a destination. So it's been very hard for the Raiders to keep home field advantage. By the same token, Josh McDaniels doesn't win games. They actually lose games with a 2-score lead 7 times in one season. I'm not bitter. But that's the reality. I love the idea of the A's moving. There's even rumors that name, the A's, could be changed. It might not be the A's when they move to Oakland or when they move to Vegas. I saw something on Twitter about the Aviators. That would be kind of dope. I'm not going to lie to you. But I hope it stays the Las Vegas A's. Super simple. Super easy. I hope they change the colors to more of a black and gold. Maybe more of a black, green, and gold type outlook. I don't want them to be green and gold here. I think like a charcoal gray / green / gold would be amazing. That'd be a cool redesign for the A's, and it would be fitting. It would be fitting for Vegas for sure. So that's what we're looking at for the Oakland A's. I'm obviously going to keep you guys, and I should say Las Vegas A's, but not yet. I'm going to keep you guys posted on that. But I think that's exciting, man. Vegas is only going to get bigger. This is almost the perfect time. I can't imagine a better time to start a Vegas show than what we did last year, because great things are happening, man. Great things are happening in Vegas sports-wise, and now's a great time. Now is a great time to be involved with sports in Vegas. And then there's so many others I got to touch on, like, boxing. I need to do a better job of talking about that. I need to do a better job talking about the events there. UFC is in Vegas often. We're going to do a better job of talking about that too. There's just so much going on in Vegas that we could cover on this show. It's just a lot to cover in an hour. It really is. But we'll get cracking. Transitioning over to the Raiders, the NFL draft is Thursday evening, starting at 7 p.m. Central Standard, I believe. The Raiders have the number 7 overall pick. And Larry B. and Taryn, I think you guys are kind of on the right track. I'm going to reiterate what I stated at the very beginning of the show. If the Raiders, I think the top 4 quarterbacks go the first 4 picks. I have no problem saying that. It makes all the sense in the world. If the Raiders can't find a way to trade up and get the top 2 guys, which is C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, and honestly, the only player I hope the Raiders trade up and get is C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud is far more of a scheme fit than Bryce Young is. Anthony Richardson, I have zero confidence that Josh McDaniels could coach him and build a scheme around him. I know he's supposedly a genius. I'm not going to ask that kid to stand in a pocket. And that's what Josh McDaniels is going to do. Unless you're Jarrett Stidham, of course. Even though you had a very mobile quarterback like Derek Carr. Not bitter, still. I don't see Josh McDaniels with the ability to maximize Anthony Richardson's skill set in this offense. They could surprise us. This is a new regime after all. I'm not expecting Alex Leatherwood to get drafted by this regime. I don't think they'd even dare, to be truthfully honest with you. But they're the type of front office and regime that'll draft a running back in the third round and run him maybe 15 to 20 times the entire season. So there's questions, man. I get it. We need to win. Winning cures everything, to be honest with you. Raiders got to do a better job at that, period. And this is a good way to start. In my opinion, this is the most important draft the Raiders have had in a decade. Maybe two. This draft with 12 picks could very well shape the future if they do a good job. Kind of like in 2019 when everybody thought the Raiders draft was very productive, and it was for a rookie class. There was a lot of bright spots before the Henry Ruggs situation, everything went down. It was on momentum, like things were building. Coach Gruden and them were coaching a team that was growing. It was young and it was growing. Players were misses, there were misses, I get that, but let's be honest. They were still coaching a growing team that looked promising. I hope I'm wrong about Josh McDaniels. I hope I am, but 17-28 says otherwise. I hope Dave Ziegler drafts the crap out of this team and everything's changed. Or at least drafts the crap out of this team, and all of a sudden, Josh McDaniels is let go because Mark Davis says, yeah, I'm not going to deal with another losing season, which could very well likely happen with Kansas City and Los Angeles being so top heavy, and then the Broncos are going to get better with Sean Payton. I don't know. I think Dave Ziegler is really honestly drafting for the next coach, to be real with you. So if I'm the Raiders, and I know I'm not, but if I'm the Raiders front brass, if I can't trade up to get C.J. Stroud for sure, and I don't think we'll know until after the first pick, if the Carolina Panthers truly select Bryce Young or Will Levis, fine. You know you have an opportunity to go get C.J. Stroud. See if you can trade up to 2 or 3. 2 makes the most sense because then you know you can get CJ. But if you can't trade up to get CJ Stroud, sit pat. You have 12 picks. 12 difference-making picks. Sit pat. Take the number 7 overall pick. Maybe see if you can. You have multiple third-round picks. Maybe see if you can trade up again in the second. You have multiple fourth and fifth-round picks. See if you can continue to trade up. I'm okay with the Raiders going from 12 picks to 8 if it means they traded up and got their guy in that next round, and the value was there. That's what I think the Raiders should do. So in all likelihood, when Taron asks, is a quarterback going to be selected, I can't guarantee that unless they trade up to 4. Unless they trade up into the top 4, because I think that those top 4 quarterbacks are going at 4. So if we look at, for example, I did another mock draft today. It'll probably be my last one before the actual draft hits. I did that on purpose. I wanted to show you guys my thoughts and what would happen if we didn't obsess about trading up. There was no Jalen Carter. There was no Will Anderson. I would totally expect them guys to go to Seattle or go to Detroit because those guys seem like Seattle or Detroit players. So the number 7 overall pick, I did pass up on Devin Witherspoon because I think that Christian Gonzalez is younger. He has better physical tools. He's more explosive. He's got more upside. Witherspoon is probably going to be a shutdown corner immediately. Christian Gonzalez could be a shutdown corner year 2 and potentially much longer than Devin Witherspoon because of his physical traits. He's a freak of nature. I like Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon a lot. He's fast. He's very explosive. The fact that he jumped greater than 11 feet in the broad jump is nuts to me. That tells me how explosive a guy at 6'1", 205 pounds who plays corner is. He's going to be excellent for this type of defense. The guy, to me, looks like Stephon Gilmore, but faster. He really does. He looks that good. I like Christian Gonzalez a lot. He was a perfect fit for that Georgia defensive. It was Dan Lanning who came over from Georgia, took over for Oregon. I think he was a perfect corner for that guy. and I think it translates to the NFL. I really do. I selected Christian Gonzalez, number 7 overall, because the Raiders need a ton of help on defense. And in my mind, I wanted the best available player. Christian Gonzalez is one of my top 10 guys in this entire draft. I had 4 on my mind. C.J. Stroud, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Christian Gonzalez were my 4 that I wanted the Raiders to pick if they had the ability to in the top 10. Period. All of those guys, off-the-chart physical traits, all difference makers at their positions. That's what I was looking for. And none of those 3 guys were available at 7. Christian Gonzalez was. What a wonderful consolation prize. No joke. I'm taking Christian Gonzalez. In a passing league, I'm taking a lockdown corner. You have 2 defensive ends right now. You have Max Crosby. You have Chandler Jones, who, I don't know, maybe he was bugged with injuries last year. Maybe they'll find better ways to make him more productive next season. Okay? You still have Malcolm Kuntz, the 3rd-round pick, I think, in 2020, out of Buffalo, who could come in off the bench. Is he an elite guy? No. But there's still room to draft a defensive end in this draft, man. I totally agree with Larry. I think pass rusher makes sense. I just don't know if that top pass rusher is going to be available at 7. I would rather take Christian Gonzalez over Tyree Wilson. It's that simple. In round 2, number 38, I had Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker was available at 38. He's ranked as like the number 47 overall player. I just felt like this was a spot they couldn't pass on him. He's 25 years old. He was balling out. He was playing out of his mind for Tennessee before he got hurt. I think he's a big, tall quarterback that could translate to Josh McDaniels' system. Maybe. Sounds like he's really smart too. He'd be a great pick at 38. At number 70, the second or the first of the 3rd-round picks. If the Raiders don't trade up with pick number 70 to get into the 2nd round one more time, I'm going to be pissed. Because you have the ability to do it. When you have multiple 3rds, trade up. When you have 3/5, trade up back into the 4th if you can. Seriously, man. Multiple 6ths, trade back up into the 5th. Don't waste time. Don't wait to get guys in the 7th when you have multiple picks. I hope that's what the Raiders do, and I think Dave Ziegler will. They need to take 12 picks and turn them into a productive 8 or 9 picks. Like studs. They're guys. They'll have the cap space. Go for it. Number 70. There's no trade here. I'm just telling you what I hope the Raiders do. Number 70, I picked up guard Chandler Zavala out of North Carolina State. Chandler Zavala was, in the early stages, ranked in the hundreds. Like, for whatever reason. But when you watch him on film at 6'5", 325, he's an anchor, man. People don't get past him. He may not be an amazing run blocker, which is what Josh McDaniels loves, but the guy's not going to let too many people in. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now. If the Raiders stay with Andre James, because he is terrible. If the Raiders stay with Andre James, he needs very good guards in order for him to be productive. Because that man gets faked out by the most simplest twists that you can do on the defensive front. More often than any center I've ever watched. And yes, maybe I'm focused on him more than any other center in the league because he's a Raiders center. But Andre James is not good. That's a simple fact, man. But if you put Chandler on the other side of Andre James and allow Dylan Parham to remain at guard where he was a stud all year for a rookie, even played through some injuries, next to Colton Miller, I think you have the makings of a very good line. Illuminor didn't allow a sack the last 15 games last year. I think he only allowed like 4 or 5 pressures the last 15 games last year. Illuminor's solid. Do you want to find a replacement? Absolutely, and we did that later on in the 7th round. I hope the Raiders don't pick in the 7th. Really don't. I hope they continue to trade up, man. Again, I want 12 picks to turn into 8. I'd love to see, let's see here. I'd love to see their 8 picks being the top in the first 5 rounds. I'd love it. I'd love those 8 picks to 6 rounds. You guys get what I'm saying. The Raiders cannot sit pat. They need to take risks. They need to move up and find their guy. They have a lot of holes to fill, man. And you need rookie contracts to do it. That's how you win teams. That's how you build winning programs. Build in the draft. Chandler Zavala to me was a no-brainer. He's got an excellent anchor. He's an excellent pass. He's a pass protector. He needs help in the run game. He's probably stronger in zone than gap, which isn't much of a fit for Josh McDaniels, but this guy was available in the third round. I wasn't going to pass on him. So Chandler Zavala, that helps with that interior help that we need poorly. Kobe Turner. Kobe Turner's not talked about enough. He's a big, thick man that's going to be in the middle of the defense, and he won't get moved around. Pair him with the two gentlemen that they picked up, like Neil Farrell, and pardon me, for some reason I'm missing his name from last year out of Tennessee. Pair Kobe with those two young guys. Rotate him on the inside consistently. Let them do work in the middle while the defensive ends eat, and the linebackers eat for that matter. I totally have faith in that. Kobe Turner's a big man. He's hard to move, and his pass rush win rate was in the 20s for a nose tackle. That's unbelievable. According to PFF, his pass rush win rate was around 20-something%. That's incredible for a nose tackle. I'm taking it all day. Round 4, 109. I picked Luke Schoonmaker out of Michigan. What is something the Raiders need now that Darren Waller's gone? A good tight end. Luke Schoonmaker was an excellent tight end in the Big Ten. Next to Ronnie Bell, this guy was moving, man. He was catching balls left and right. I like him. He's a fit. He's a fit for this offense. He's probably a Foster Moreau replacement in year one. He'll never be Darren Waller. No offense to Luke Schoonmaker. Darren Waller's one of a kind, man. His athleticism. He's just been wasted in a Raiders uniform. Schoonmaker's a beast to me. I think he's going to be excellent at the next level, and I think he's perfect for this offense. Round 5, 141. I picked, and I'm Oluwatimi is what I'm picking out of Michigan center. He was one of the best centers in the Big Ten. He's big. He moves people around. When you watch his film, he's a mover. That Michigan O-line, this guy's perfect. He's going to take over for Andre James, and he might not be slightly better than Andre James in year one, which is fine, but in year one, I'll take that. I think he could very well beat Andre James. If Andre James wins the job, it's because the Raiders chose experience. That's it. Because this dude can move people. Andre is nowhere near as strong as this man. He's a freak of nature in the middle. He's only 6'3", about 320. I don't care. The man can move. He runs like a tight end too. Like Michigan was pulling center guard or center tackle last year. That tells you how good their center was. He started for them for 4 years, or he played for them for 4 years, started 3. I'm taking him, man. He's an experienced center. We've seen what happens when you give experienced centers time. Creed Humphreys is one of the best centers in the league now. Plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was the most experienced center in the draft a couple years ago. He was a guy that I was hoping the Raiders would pick in round 3. He ended up going round 2 to a really good, an amazing Kansas City Chiefs team. And now he's a top 2 center in the league. Take the experienced center, man. A strong, experienced center that can move people. And he runs gap in Michigan, because that's a lot of what Jim Harbaugh runs. He's a match made in heaven for Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. Get after that center from Michigan. Oluwatimi. Sounds Samoan. He sounds like a beast already. Second round 5 pick. I picked Viliami Fehoko. He's a San Jose State guy. Taron Rodriguez is going to know this dude. He is dominant on the edge, man. His win rate was incredible. Like well over 20% for a pass rush win rate. His true pass rush win rate, according to PFF, the guy was rated in the 80s. He's a light blue. That's what we need to know. Will that translate to the NFL? We don't know. But he's got the tools, man. He's a big dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 265 pounds. He can set the edge. He can play against tackles. He can play against tight ends if he needs to. I love it. There's a lot of upside there, and we're getting him in round 5. That's an additional pass rusher to go across from Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, Chandler Jones. That's a big room. Ronnie Hickman, I selected the other round 5 pick. Ronnie Hickman's a safety out of Ohio State. He only allowed 130 yards this past season. And he's primarily a strong safety. I got an A for that. I can't believe he was available in round 5. He's speedy. He knows how to cover the back end. The guy's stingy in coverage, and the Raiders need help all over this defense. I think I did a really good job of addressing the major needs, which is corner, the middle of the defense, which is defensive tackle, right? Edge, safety. The only level I didn't address was linebacker, but that's one of the areas I don't know if the Raiders technically need help there yet. We'll find out maybe after this year, but I don't think they need help there right now. I picked Jalen Moreno, Cropper, first pick in round 6. Fresno State guy, slot. He's a prototypical slot. He's perfect for Josh McDaniels because Josh McDaniels, unless you're Hunter Renfrow, loves to use slots. It's that simple. Someone's going to have to learn from our free agency pickup this year, who's primarily a slot receiver, who's going to play opposite of Devontae Adams. Listen, guys, on paper, this roster is actually going to be very good if they don't mess up the draft. I just don't trust Josh McDaniels. They had a good roster last year. They had a lead in 7 games, 2-score lead in 7 games, and it didn't work out. Everybody wanted to point the finger at Derek Carr. And now you're playing a tougher division than what it was last year, and you can't convince me otherwise, because I think the Chargers and Chiefs are in a position to really capitalize on some excellent draft picks. Second pick in the 6th round, Will Mallory out of Miami. Speedier tight end than Luke Schoonmaker, but he can catch the football. New England was at their best when they had 2 tight ends that were pass catchers and played really well together. This is the time to do it. You lost Foster Moreau. You lost Darren Waller. Got to replace him. Get some production there. I'd go after it if I was the Raiders. Give it a shot. See what happens. Chris Rodriguez in round 7. It's another running back, I know. I'm telling you guys, I don't know if Josh Jacobs is on this roster at the beginning of the season. You'd love to see it because Josh is a beast. And he's been one of the best Raiders the last 4 years. But the reality is the reality, man. If you can't bring him back, Chris Rodriguez was a workhorse in the SEC out of Kentucky. And then my final pick, Mr. Irrelevant for the Raiders, was Dalton Wagner, tackle out of Arkansas. He's 6'8", 340-some pounds. He's a big mammoth of a man. He can push people around like nobody's business. I'm a big fan of Sam Witter. I think it's Sam Witter. You're going to have to excuse me. Give me 1 second. Sam Pittman, I apologize. I'm a big fan of Sam Pittman. The guy's churning out offensive linemen. Big, physical, nasty offensive lineman. I'm a big fan of it. I think he's going to do an excellent job. I really do. Dalton could be somebody they develop. To me, Thayer Mumford should get the start. If Thayer Mumford pushes Illuminor and he's anywhere near close to Illuminor, give Thayer Mumford the start. If you draft Dalton Wagner in the 7th, you have someone you can develop because Illuminor likely won't be on the roster in 2024. You have your backup. They brought back Brandon Parker. He could be the backup at left tackle. You'll have depth that way. I still think they should continue to build through the draft, but it is what it is, man. I got a B+ overall, but I think all of these guys have value. I think they all fit the personality of the Raiders, and I hope that this is the type of draft that we see. If they can't trade up and get Stroud, and if they can't continue to trade up and get their guys in those respective rounds, in the first 5 rounds, I'm not happy with this result. And I think Dave Ziegler's aggressive enough to do it. I really do. I'm excited for Thursday. I'm also approaching it with cautious optimism as always. Cautious optimism as always. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. Tune in every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk all things Vegas. And as always, folks, have a great time Thursday evening. Love our Golden Knights. Cheer them on. Love, peace, and hair grease.